Hi everyone, I'm Katie Winkle with There's a Balance for That, and today I'm going to be talking about what happens during a session. This is a really common question I get from people. They say, hey, I totally get what you do, I think, but what are you going to do to me when I get there? And so I'm going to basically map out what happens when we start working together. So we can work together either in person or over the phone or over Skype or FaceTime or Zoom or any of those online platforms. And we start off our session by saying, okay, well, what's going on with you? I'll ask you what's going on. Why did you feel the need to see me? What would you like to work on today? And let's say somebody wants to come to me because they want to work on time management. They're always fighting the clock. They don't seem to have any extra time in the day. They're only sleeping maybe like 4 or 5 hours a night, if that. They work 12-hour days, and then they have a hobby that they really want to be doing. And so they explain all of this to me. And so then I might ask, okay, well, what is it that you want instead? And they say, well, I want more time. And I say, okay, is that really what you want? And they say, well, the problem with that is that I have too many other things that I'm doing and I don't have any time for myself. And I say, okay, well, so then what would you like instead? And then they would say something like, I want to say no to the things that I don't want to do. And that's where I would likely start with somebody. So then I would say, okay, so you want to say no to the things you don't want to do. Let's craft a statement together. You can craft a statement. I want to say no, and we need to make sure that the subconscious understands it so it can't have any negatives in it. So this case is a little bit different because it's about using the word no and using that in a way that feels powerful rather than feels guilty, right? You want to say no and not feel bad about it. So what can we say in order to make that really stick for you in a way that we're not using the word no? And so this happened with a client just last week. She said to me, I want to take back my power. And do you see the difference in that for her? She said, well, I want to say no. And I said, okay, but like, what would that really be for you? And she said, well, I want to take back my power. And just me saying that and kind of reliving that part of her session just gave me like a little bit of a goosebump because that's so powerful for her. And so then what we did was her first balance. And so we figured out first, what does her muscle test response look like and feel like for both of us? And there's a series of questions that I asked her about that. And then once we had a very clear understanding, both of us, of what a strong muscle test response looks like and what a weak muscle test response looks like, then I gave her instructions on how to balance that belief. Now, why is the muscle test important? The muscle test is important because it allows us to communicate directly with the subconscious and the superconscious, and gives the conscious mind visibility and gives the conscious mind an experience that tells it something has happened during the session. So when she said, I take back my power, and we muscle tested her, her arm went down. And what that means is that she had a weak muscle response. So that means that subconsciously she didn't believe that statement to be true for herself. So she did the balance, and when she was finished with the balance, I take back my power, and I pushed on her arm. Her arm did not move. It stayed right here. And then we celebrated that, of course, which was just a really beautiful experience. And then I said, okay, what else do you want for yourself? And the session continued to unfold that way. Just in case anybody's not familiar, I'll quickly explain what balancing is. Balancing is where it is very specific to the brain, okay? So it creates a whole brain state, meaning the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain are working together so that those sequences that fire off right? When we are triggered or when somebody wants us to do something that we don't want to do, there's basically all of these things firing in the brain. And when they can go back and forth across from the left to the right hemisphere and back again and back and forth and do all of this, it means that we're using more of our brain to create our reality. And so when she said, I take back my power, and she recognized that when she takes back her power, she doesn't feel guilt anymore. One of the first things that she decided that she was going to do right there in that session was she was going to correct an email that she sent the day before that she didn't want to send. She agreed to do something. Her whole entire body, she was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But you know what she said? Sure, I'll do this. And so that for her was a really powerful experience because she knew in her mind that it was going to be okay. And she had everything she needed to go and set that boundary with the person that crossed the line. It was a really beautiful thing, and this can happen really for any topic of any issue that anybody wants to address as long as they're willing to trust the process. Now, one thing I do find important for my clients to know when they come and see me is to be open and curious. If I have somebody that says, you know what, I don't love myself and I want to love myself, and that's the thing I need to balance for, and that's going to solve all of my problems after the last 65 years of life, and it's just, that's the only thing I need, and that's all I'm going to go there for. I have had that happen before, and those are the sessions that don't go very well. I hate to say, and it's because there's too much fixation on an outcome. When my clients come to me and they're open and curious and they realize that they have potential and they're just not aware yet of what that potential is, or they're aware of it but they realize that they haven't yet accessed it, then those are the sessions that are the most powerful because it allows us to explore in more detail and with fewer restrictions what else is possible. And when we're using language like, well, what else is possible for you, rather than, well, that's impossible and we can't do anything else, when we're saying things like, well, what else is possible, that creates so much more room and opportunity for growth and expansion. And that happens with those that are open and curious about what happens during their sessions. So what are your problems? What do you think you need to balance for? Whatever it is, I know there's a balance for that. If you are curious about what it would be like to work with me, you'd like to have a phone call about that, you can go ahead and send me a message, and I would be happy to have a conversation with you about what that looks like. Also, feel free to visit my website, theresabalanceforthat.com, and take a look around. There's a lot of frequently asked questions on there. There's a contact me page, and there's also a page of options to work with me, and that very thoroughly describes packages that are available and hourly rates and balances by request as well. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.